Welcome to an explanation of what your Features of Functions project is going to look like. So, throughout these last few weeks, we've been looking at graphs. We've been determining if they're increasing, decreasing, if they're discrete or continuous or anything like that. We've been looking and giving details about features of graphs. So, your project is you are going to create a graphing story that is 15. So it's a 15-second video accomplished by a graph that shows how one variable changes from time to time. To give you an example of what that looks like, I'm going to refer back to our Monday's lesson. So remember how on Monday we looked at graphs and we watched a video about a man who climbs up the playground equipment. So this would be a 15-second video. A video of somebody doing something that can easily be graphed. So during this project, that is going to be the first step that you do, is create a video. Okay, and then it says your task is to create your own graphing story, which I just said. Create an answer key, and you have to explain how you're going to graph it, what your graph is going to look like, those kinds of things. So as you go through and answer the questions below, so it's just a yes or no, just to like mentally check yourself and make sure you have all these things. Make sure it's easier to be more detailed the better. Okay? Remember, you're explaining what's going on in the video just like a teacher would, and how to graph it. So again, the directions, you're going to make a 15-second video, story to story, similar to what we discussed earlier or saw at the beginning of the week, which was Monday. I just showed you the example. Your story can be anything school appropriate as long as you're able to graph it. So such as jumping on a trampoline, swinging on a swing set, any of those things. One thing you can't do is any of the videos that we've seen before. You can't use any of those videos. Remember, you have to create it. Not finding one on YouTube that's a 15-second video. You need to create it because you need to be able to graph it. Once you've done that, okay, you're going to videotape your story just like I showed you how I was explaining what was going on while the video played and graphing it. Okay, it needs to be between 3 to 5 minutes explaining what is happening in the story / video, how to label your graph, how to graph your video, and any misconceptions that you can see. So as you continue on, I'll show you where the checklist is just in case you're very confused or have any questions. So feel free to use your own graph paper or your own graphing method, but here is just an example that you can use a little template for your video. So here's the checklist or rubric that you can use in order to make sure you got all the full points. So obviously here, yes and no. You don't have to fill this out. You can just mentally check it off yourself. Do I have these things? So this project is worth 15 points. The first set of points is going to be here. Is your story video exactly 15 seconds long? So that is worth 8 points. And make sure your video is clear so we can see what's going on. Don't try to shoot it on a potato. I know you guys like to shoot things on potatoes, but you know, try to at least give a little bit more quality. Make sure you're not sitting in the dark. Make sure it's light, there's enough light, that kind of thing. Use your common knowledge. Graphing it is going to be worth 4 points. So is your y-axis labeled with the appropriate variables? Also, is your x-axis labeled as well? Is it clear to see what or who the axis is referring to? Do you have a title for your graph? Does the variable of the y-axis use appropriate units? Does the x-axis and y-axis scale appropriately? Make sure your axes are correctly labeled. Don't try to put your time on the wrong axis and then your graph's all wonky and then you're just like, I don't understand why. Make sure that you're focused on what the axes are. Make sure they're labeled. They don't have to be by second or by like distance, but preferably that would be best. So Explanation is worth 10 points. So while you're explaining what's going on in your story, just like I am with these instructions, I'm explaining what's going on. You need to make sure you're playing the video, how to graph it. Did you mention all key features to the events in the video, such as if your video is somebody skateboarding and they do an ollie, are you making sure that you mention, hey, because they did an ollie, it's this many feet above the ground, etc., etc., etc. So, are you explaining are all your explanations logic and well organized? That means like making sure that you're not going, well, it kind of looks like this. No, I want you to be firm with your logistic and what's going on in the video because you created it. Do you use specific proper vocab, such as slope, y-intercept, x-intercept? If it hits those, is it decreasing, increasing is the next one. Mathematical vocabulary, okay? Is it contiguous? Is it a discrete function? You know, anything like that. Are specific x and y values referenced, and describe parts of the graph? So an example, from 2 to 5 seconds, the man fell from a height of 10 feet to a height of 5 feet. So you're explaining what's going on in the video just like what a teacher would. Are your sources of errors discussed? Are there steps to take to minimize errors? So explaining ways people could make a mistake on the graph, or how you can help make sure that they're focused on what the y-axis is saying. So in the Monday video, one of the videos, it was the same man, but it was height from his waist from the ground, not his feet. So one of the graph was from his feet, one of the graph was from his waist, making sure you're knocking out those errors. And is my video 3 to 5 minutes long? If it's more than 5 minutes, try not to make it more than 7. But since you're only doing one video, you should be able to do it one video, you should be able to do it in 3 to 5 minutes. So again, if you have any questions on this project, feel free to reach out to either myself or Miss Stiles, depending on which you are, in person or not in person. The most important thing is that this is due on the 30th of November. So on that day, you guys will not come to school because it's asynchronous day, if you did not know yet. On the 30th of November, you won't be coming to school. You'll stay at home and do all your assignments there. So we will be available all day. We might be in a few meetings, so make sure, like, if we don't reply to your email, don't think it's intentional. Us teachers have meetings that day. So get started on your project. The first thing I would do is start thinking about what kind of 15-second video you would like to make.